This film should not be here. Not because it was dangerous. Not because it was forbidden. But because it was forgotten. A long time ago, images were treated as disposable. Printed, projected, and left behind. Reels were stored in basements. In attics. In rooms that never opened again. Most of them vanished. Some were thrown away. Some burned. Some decomposed into dust. Some were simply misplaced, until no one remembered they existed. And then, without ceremony, they returned. What you're watching now is one of those returns. A film that survived the quiet parts of history. A film that slipped through the cracks. A film that no longer belongs to anyone. It is public domain. Untethered. Unclaimed. Which means it can be seen again. Not as entertainment. Not as nostalgia. As a record. Look closely. Old films don't move like modern films. They breathe differently. They pause. They stare. They linger on faces a little too long. Back then, there was less noise. Less explanation. Less protection. So when something feels wrong, it stays wrong. You can already sense it in the opening. The pacing is patient. Almost polite. Like a door held open. But the film is not inviting you in. It's simply letting you walk forward. And once you do, it never pulls you back. Notice how the world looks. The rooms. The streets. The shadows. Everything is simpler. And because it is simpler, it is harsher. No soft lighting to forgive the corners. No modern sound designed to tell you what to feel. No fast cutting to distract you from the stillness. Just the frame. And inside the frame, a kind of calm that doesn't belong. The characters appear the way people used to appear in old cinema. As if they were being observed rather than followed. They don't perform for you. They move because the story moves them. And the story does not care what you want. Watch the eyes. Old films often place the truth in the eyes. A glance held half a second too long. A look away that happens too late. A smile that arrives without warmth. It's easy to miss if you're watching casually. But if you watch like an archivist, if you watch like someone cataloging a crime, the pattern starts to show. This is not a world built for comfort. It is a world built for inevitability. The first scenes usually pretend otherwise. They offer routine, normalcy, the illusion that the rules are stable. But this is an old trick. A common structure in forgotten cinema. The film begins by establishing a baseline. Only so it can quietly remove it. Listen to the silence between moments. The gaps. The spaces where nothing is said. In those gaps, the film reveals its real tone. Because in older films, fear was not always loud. Sometimes it was structural. The fear was the knowledge that no one would arrive in time. That's why these stories still work. Even now. They don't rely on modern shock. They rely on something older. The dread of being unimportant. A door can be locked. A window can be shut. A street can be empty. And if you disappear, the world continues. Keep watching. The film begins to narrow. The shots tighten. The safe spaces shrink. Corridors feel longer. Rooms feel smaller. It's subtle at first. A camera position that doesn't give you an exit. A composition that traps a character against a wall. A shadow that takes up more of the frame than it should. And then, a change. Sometimes the change is an arrival. Sometimes it's a sound. Sometimes it's the absence of a sound you expected. But once it happens, the film is no longer pretending. Now it is showing you the mechanism. Look at the way people react. In modern films, characters often explain what's happening. They narrate their own fear. In older films, they often don't. They freeze. They search. They hesitate. They look toward the wrong place. Because they don't know the rules yet. And neither do you. This is the part where the story begins to collect its weight. A small decision leads to a larger consequence. A casual step becomes irreversible. A simple mistake becomes a permanent condition. You can almost feel it. The moment where the film locks into its track. From here on, it's momentum. The world outside the frame becomes irrelevant. All that matters is what is inside these walls. Inside these streets. Inside this night. Notice the props. Old films treated objects differently. A lamp is not just a lamp. It's a last defense against darkness. A telephone is not just a telephone. It's the thin thread between survival and silence. A car is not just transportation. It's a coffin with wheels if it fails. Every item has gravity. And the film knows it. The editing begins to repeat. A return to the same door. The same hallway. The same face. The same expression, slightly altered. Repetition is a signal. It tells you the story has entered a loop. A cycle. A pattern. And patterns are difficult to break. This is where the atmosphere becomes heavier. Where the film stops being a sequence of events. And becomes a place you are stuck inside. You might notice something else here. The way the film treats time. Old cinema often stretches time without announcing it. A moment becomes longer than it should be. A pause becomes a scene. This is not a mistake. It's a technique. Fear needs time. Not to appear, but to settle. The film gives it time to settle. And once it settles, it becomes a constant. Now the characters are moving differently. More cautious. More tense. As if the air itself is unreliable. The lighting shifts. Faces become less readable. Backgrounds become more active. Shadows stop behaving like shadows. They start behaving like entities. Sometimes, the most disturbing thing is not what you see. It's what the film refuses to show. A cutaway at the wrong moment. A door closing just before the truth appears. A reaction shot that implies something beyond the frame. Your mind fills in the absence. And the mind is always worse than the screen. Keep watching the edges of the frame. Older films often hide things there. Not as an Easter egg. As a consequence of their craft. Sets were real spaces. Lighting was imperfect. Extras were human. So sometimes, something slips in. A movement. A face. A silhouette that doesn't belong. And because it was not designed, it feels more real. This is the strange power of old footage. It contains accidents. And accidents feel like evidence. The story continues to tighten. At a certain point, you may realize the film is no longer building toward fear. It is living inside it. The decisions now are not about comfort.